the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021 were heading into some uncertain territory. 2020, very, very bad year for Eagles and their fan base. They went 4-11-1 because, well, they had a very underwhelming roster, and, well, injuries to said roster also led to that 4-11-1 record. Also leading to that record was friction between Doug Peterson, the front office, and Carson Wentz going into a pretty bad regression period that led to the rookie and second rounder Jalen Hurts starting the rest of the way at, I think it was the late point of the season. And then there's that game in that season finale for whatever reason, NBC and the NFL decided that was the game to put on prime time. Yeah, that Sunday night final game of the season in week 17 against the Washington football team, where they've only put that there because honestly, it was Washington pretty much putting the bow on the top on the NFC East. That was it. So they fired Doug Peterson after the season, and then in comes Colts offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni. And people are wondering, like, who's Nick Sirianni? Like, who is this guy? I personally didn't even know who Nick Sirianni was until, well, obviously, the 49ers game, like very early in the season. So in the offseason last year, they trade Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for a third round pick and a conditional second round pick in the 2022 NFL draft that could become a first round pick. And, well, we'll get there eventually. And yeah, I'll just say it now, actually, that it actually did become a first round pick. So that pretty much all but assured that Jalen Hurts would be the starter in 2021. Obviously, still questions about whether or not he could be the guy to take the Eagles to the top. So during that offseason, they released Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, two key pieces in that offense and in Eagles pass. But they later drafted in Jalen Hurts' old teammate from Alabama, Devontae Smith. So you get a little bit of chemistry in the offense. So despite that, though, they didn't really do much in free agency. They did sign Ryan Kerrigan from the Washington football team. They got Steven Nelson, but mainly on short-term deals. So going to the season, you had a new head coach. You still had a pretty underwhelming roster still. You still had questions about a second-year quarterback that was getting a full season to start in the NFL. So 2021 was looking like the beginning of a rebuild for Philadelphia. But I don't think the Eagles remembered that. I honestly don't think the Eagles remembered that at all. So, for at least the most part of it, because, the Eagles went into Atlanta the first week of the season. They beat up on the Falcons, and easily so. Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith looked pretty damn good in that game. And the problem was, though, when it was only against the scraps. It was only week 1. Then when you go against the 49ers in week 2, you pretty much saw what was the case the rest of the way. They couldn't really outlast the real contenders. The problem was in the games against the real contenders like the Tampa Bay Bucs, the Dallas Cowboys, the Kansas City Chiefs, there were things that would really question, like, why are they even trying to compete at this point? I mean, sure, you want to win games, but what was their goal for 2021? So anyway, Nick, during these games against the eventual playoff contenders, Nick Sirianni would make odd decisions that didn't need to be made. Like during that 49ers game, he made that failed Philly special on fourth down. They literally tried to go for it all very early in the game, and they failed. Why? And then very early, all throughout the season, Jalen Hurts struggled with finding his receivers that were well wide open, and in some games he would commit a bevy of turnovers. And then Jonathan Gannon's defense, the defensive coordinator, his defense got toasted early on, and sure, they got better down the line, but they were absolutely getting hammered by the best defenses given to them. So Nick Sirianni noticed that Jalen Hurts wasn't doing well so far. So he decided to change things up. He decided to change up the offense by making it more 49ers oriented, by making it, a run-based offense. So he had some pretty pretty decent running backs in Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, and then you had rookie Kenneth Gainwell. So they went to that style of offense, and they actually managed to have some success with it. But realistically, you could have picked one or two, Mr. Sirianni. So anyway, it was at that midway point of the season where that change happened, and most certainly it was a success for Philadelphia. And it was also during that time where the defense also tightened up. Darius Slay having the longest fumble recovery touchdown ever in that Denver game. The thing was, though, that heavy use of the running game, it would just create more questions about whether Jalen Hurts was the long-term option. I mean, he would still have those games where we'd have multiple turnovers, and it really wouldn't create a lot of passing situations or good throws. So there were also some games though that he looked pretty good. Like for the games against the New Orleans Saints, or the first or the second game against Washington, and the second game against the New York Giants. So those games showed off what Jalen Hurts could potentially be if he corrects the simple things. So nonetheless, the Eagles took care of their business. They went 9-8, even though most of those wins were against hapless rebuilding or injured teams like the New York Giants, Washington, the New Orleans Saints, the New York Jets, and and lo and behold, they surprisingly clinched a playoff spot. They actually clinched it before the 49ers. They had the worse record than them. So the Eagles managed to clinch their playoff spot, but unfortunately for them, pretty much their run first identity, the concerns about Jalen Hurts would come back to haunt them in the game against the Tampa Bay Bucs in the first round, because the Bucs would totally kick their ass. The Tampa shut down the running game. Miles Sanders couldn't find an open running lane. Neither could Jordan Howard or Boston Scott. And Jalen Hurts was getting pummeled by that pass rush, and he couldn't run the ball himself. The Bucs knew it was coming, and just like in previous other games, Jalen Hurts was missing open receivers, including to Devontae Smith. And of course, it wasn't until later in the game where they were just putting out the garbage numbers. So pretty bad end to the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. But even with the ass kicking end to their 9-8 season, Eagles fans should feel a little bit encouraged for the future. Devontae Smith had a solid year, and Nick Sirianni, his running back approach should be a success, and it shouldn't be though. It shouldn't be a long-term solution, because you still want to see what you have in Jalen Hurts. You still want to see if he's the guy, if he has the intangibles, if you should hopefully get a better offseason out of him. So also the defense got better in the second half. Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay, they were pretty damn good in that unit, and of course against the pretty bad teams, of course. So the Philadelphia Eagles still have some questions to answer this offseason, especially from Jalen Hurts, whether he's going to be the guy or not. But in order to answer those questions, you got to build up the key positions. You got to build up some gray areas first. So going into the offseason, they had about $21 million in cap space to spend going into the free agency period before it opened up. Some of the key free agents included Derek Barnett and Ryan Kerrigan. You also had Rodney McLeod and Anthony Harris at safety. They also had Jordan Howard and corner Steven Nelson. I don't know if they're going to retain any of them, but some of the things that they already addressed included their big splash signing in Panthers edge rusher Hassan Reddick to a 3-year deal. The biggest thing that the Philadelphia Eagles lacked last year was pressuring quarterbacks, even with Fletcher Cox in the lineup. And I guess the Ryan Kerrigan signing didn't really help them much. But Hassan Reddick had a really good year for the Carolina Panthers. As I mentioned in my Panther season recap, Hassan Reddick will be a really good addition alongside Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat. That pass rush is going to be real. Could be a really good unit to go along with. So there's still something to address. I know the Eagles didn't really do much yet to address their other team needs, but they can do so in the draft because they have 3 picks. Yes, 3 picks to go in this 2022 draft. They have 15th, 16th, and 19th. So 3 picks right out of the gate. So there's still some things to address for the Philadelphia Eagles. They have to upgrade the receiver spot behind Devontae Smith. As you saw in the wild card game against the Tampa Bay Bucs, when Devontae Smith gets taken away, Jalen Hurts becomes a sitting duck. And no, Jalen Reagor is not the answer to the Philadelphia Eagles receiving problem. And neither is Quez Watkins. I mean, Quez Watkins can be a good, okay reserve guy, but as a wide receiver too, no, not at all. So they lack in both quality and they kind of need a veteran presence because they're kind of a pretty young roster. They kind of are. So it's in their best interest to not just grab obviously a young receiver in the draft to go alongside Devontae Smith, but maybe they should grab a veteran presence to mentor these receivers like a Julio Jones or Jarvis Landry or Cole Beasley. At the time, right now, they're in the open market. So perhaps the Eagles can invest in one of their draft picks to go get the best receiver available as a number 2 option behind Devontae Smith. They also have to get another edge rusher opposite Hassan Reddick unless either Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat are already on the opposite end. But either way, they have to solidify on the pass rush and solidify that run defense just to shore up that defensive line. Just also they have to solidify that secondary by re-signing some safeties, Rodney McLeod and what was his name, Anthony Harris. They can either re-sign them. I mean, they were okay, but if they have any leftover money, maybe go for a guy like Tyrann Mathieu or Kareem Jackson. So they still need production from their secondary to tighten up the defense and maybe get some plays. They haven't gotten too many big plays outside of Darius Slay. They have to get him some help. So the Eagles still have a ways to go if they want to make at least a deep push in the NFC East. They have to make some moves to at least compete with Dak Prescott in the Dallas Cowboys. So you still have some questions about Jalen Hurts and his viability as the long-term starter. But, 2021 did provide some hope for the Philadelphia Eagles and their fan base. So if they continue to build around Jalen Hurts, strengthen that defense with more quality signings, and, get Jalen a number 2 receiver behind Devontae Smith, then who knows? Maybe Philadelphia can possibly throw the rebuild right out the window and potentially a big hurry.